Hello students, here's a quick video about graphing your data. Specifically, we're going to talk about line graphing. Here's a typical beginning of a graph with two axes. And axes is just the plural of axis. Because we have two, we have to change it to axes. It's one of those crazy Latin words. So where are we going to put our data? Well, the independent variable goes on the bottom line, the horizontal axis, or the x-axis. This is the variable that you manipulated in the experiment. The dependent variable is going to go on the vertical line, the y-axis. This is the variable that are your results of the experiment, which you measured at the end. This is also sometimes called the responding variable. So we have another new graph here, and I want to talk about how to number your graph, just so that we're clear. We always put a 0 in the corner at the vertex of the two lines, or the joining of the two lines, and that number is going to be a 0 every single time. That's always the 0 value. Then we go ahead and we number evenly on the x and the y axis. So each square should be one number value. And we want to make sure that we're spacing evenly. So in this case, we're going up by ones on the x line, and we're going up by ones on the y line. But sometimes your data come back and they show that maybe if you tried to number by ones, you wouldn't have enough space on your graph. So let's talk about what we would do in that case. Remember that we're going to keep our 0 value right here at the vertex, and then we can adjust our numbering. So on the x-axis here, I have numbered by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, but we want to make sure that we're continuing to keep the spacing all the way across the line. So the next one, we couldn't change to 15, 20, 25, right? We couldn't start changing our spacing. That would be an inaccurate graph. Okay? We might also number by 5s like we did on the y-axis or the dependent variable, or by 10s, but typically we want to keep the same numbering on both sides. So if we number by 2s on the bottom, then we want to number by 2s, oops, not 5, 2s going up the side as well. Okay, and what should we have on our finished line graph? Well, there are 5 things that we need to include. The first thing is we need to make sure that our axes, remember the plural of axis, our axes, both the x and the y axis, are numbered. We also need to make sure that we label each axis so we know what each axis is referring to. And usually when we label the axes, we label them with what was the variable. The third thing we need is a title, which goes at the top. We also need something called a caption that goes at the bottom of the graph that just explains what the graph is about. Usually the caption is maybe 1 to 2 sentences. And the final thing we need for a graph is to make sure that we incorporate accurate data. Okay, thanks for watching and happy graphing.